All right, so we would like to welcome everyone. This is Kerry Miller. He is a sports writer for Bleacher Report, does baseball, basketball, Olympics too, sounds like. How's that been?
Olympics question mark. That's pretty much every sports. It's fun. Like I've seen like I don't know if you guys are college basketball guys, but like Matt Norlander has been tweeting about the Olympics all week.
Mm,
It's like, so what are we gonna do with these basketball writers? Let's have them write about the Olympics. So yeah, I do that every like 4 years. I don't do the Winter Olympics. It's too much during basketball season,
oh,
but
That's
that's
fair.
it's
that's
fun. It's fun.
the Olympics always suck me in. My family loves the Olympics, so I think that has a lot to do with it. I don't know why I care about jousting and handball,
Jousting.
not jousting,
Yeah.
fencing. Sorry, I don't follow it very close, but the handball that they play, which is basically like soccer with your hands. It's just it's crazy how you start to really care about these sports for a couple weeks and then it kind of goes away, but.
hmm
Must be fun to write about. But anyways, Kerry, thank you so much for joining us. I
Yeah.
see the hat. You've got the Washington hat right there. So what's kind of your relationship to the team, and give us a little background on your sports fandom real quick.
Yeah. No, I've no connection to the team professionally speaking. I'm allowed to be a fan if I feel like it, I guess. I try and stay partial in my writing, but yeah, I've been living in the DC area for off and on for the last 13, 14 years. Started going like right when Strasburg got called up, I think
Right.
2010, 2011, whenever that was, and it was fun. I used to be an Astros fan and kind of abandoned them right when they started to get good,
Good
which
Hmm.
move.
I guess was a poor decision. I don't. It was fun beating the Astros in the 19 World Series, but
Hmm.
yeah, I was just living here and I was able to go to games for like $5, and just kind of fell in love with these what were lovable losers, and then are now again lovable losers. But
It's
we
fair.
had a nice
Yeah.
little peak there for a while.
Yeah, it's some up and down happening over there for sure. The one thing we also like to ask all of our guests is the name of the podcast is Coach's Sons, right? And so
Hmm
we got to that because we feel like everyone who played baseball, little league, whatever that looks like, whatever level, you either played for your dad or your friend's dad at some point. Did you have that experience when you were playing baseball, or if you did, or any
I
sport
mean,
really?
so I played on the township team. My dad wasn't the coach. He was like, became friendly with the coaches. I don't know. But now I coach my daughter for coach
Awesome.
pitch. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I've now become, I guess I should start a coach's daughters podcast. I
I
don't know.
love that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That'd be awesome.
Coach's
So,
pitch. Okay, so you're
co
just
Yeah.
you're
coach
tossing it
pitch.
in. Are you tossing it in hot, or are you just kind of giving it
Oh
the
yeah.
best you can?
75-mile-an-hour fastball.
Get them started early.
Yeah,
I get it.
exactly.
See it out of the hand. Listen, we're going to get very big into trade deadline, right? Winners, losers, what we think overall. But I want, you gave me a little tidbit in your intro comparing your fandom or telling us your fandom of Washington starting with Strasburg. Do me a
hmm
favor and compare that to how you feel the vibes are for Paul Skeens right now. Because
Yeah.
for me, they feel the same, if not higher, just because social media is so much bigger.
Bigger. Yeah.
Yeah. It does feel bigger now. I mean, it was definitely a moment when Strasburg. I wasn't at his first start. I think I was at his third, maybe, and even then, it was still just madness. Like and the team sucked then, but it was
Mhm.
still like a packed house, which I feel like was Paul Skeens' first few starts, and then Pirates kind of picked up, and now they were actually kind of buyers at the deadline. That was
Hmm.
weird for them, but yeah, I think it is very similar. Hopefully, the similarities start and end at this point, and
Yeah.
it's not, the injury
Ooh,
history and all that stuff.
yeah.
We'll see. I'm worried if they're going for it and they're not putting a limit on him, and he's never really pitched this many innings. You always got to worry about it. But at this point, even if you put a limit on guys, they're breaking down anyway.
Yeah.
So who you
It's
never know.
damned if
It's
you do,
all
damned if you don't. I
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
agree. I'm excited to see what they do. And then there's going to be uproar no matter what. Somebody's going to be angry. You're not going to make anybody happy. But I'm a proponent of go for it. But I could be way wrong.
Yeah, I
One other
mean,
Yeah.
disclaimer I want to give, though, Andrew's going to give his piece, but I'm a Mariners fan and Andrew's a
Hmm.
Braves fan, so tread lightly, all right? But that's why
Tread,
that's
tread
why I
lightly.
cheered when I said you said you didn't pick the Astros. I can't stand them.
Well, I will say with the Skeens and Strasburg thing, that's what the Marlins tried to do with Yuri Perez, and
mhm.
Mm.
he didn't pitch much last season. Then he didn't even start this season. Had Tommy John surgery. So, like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You never know.
It's awful that my mentality at this point is you just let them pitch because their
Yeah,
arm's gonna fall off at some point. So just might as
Hmm.
well get it out of them while you can, which is terrible to say, but I mean it's kind of the state of pitching really. Like these guys are throwing so hard and so much that it's just a matter of time. I mean Strider, being a Braves guy, Strider,
yeah,
I knew his
Yeah.
arm was gonna fall off eventually, right? And I'm glad we had him for a whole year, but I wasn't
yeah.
surprised when I had that alert that said Strider's out. I was like, here we go, So
When they
we'll see.
started talking in February, March, like, oh, he's developing a new pitch. I'm like, oh, great. He's going to destroy his arm immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, so let's get into trade talk. I think we can all agree there wasn't a holy crap trade, like big top tier name. But there were a lot of trades. So in this just sea of trades that happen, what sticks out to you, Kerry, as the biggest maybe shift? Like this is the biggest move that was made. It's going to have the highest impact.
I think the biggest single trade was either Chisholm to the Yankees or Randy Arozarena to the Mariners. Like, beyond that, it just kind of slips off in a hurry, right? The
Yeah.
next best was Jack Flaherty going to the Dodgers was a nice last second trade that kind of snuck in there. I thought the Tigers were going to screw up again as they
Yep.
did last year with Eduardo Rodriguez, but yeah, and those two trades came in early, so actual deadline day was just like, like I said, quantity over quality, just nonstop. Like, okay, fine, give me
Mhm.
the actual news next, please. Like,
Hmm.
nothing big ever really came in. I think the only real surprise trade was Eloy Jimenez going to the Orioles at the last minute.
I,
I didn't even understand that. I don't know what the O's are going for. I don't know why they would give the White Sox that salary relief, but I wrote about the seven teams who blew it at the deadline. Even with that, the White Sox were still one of them. I said that took them from an F minus to an F plus to unload that salary, but I didn't get it. But maybe he'll hit a couple homers for them. Who knows?
yeah, I thought that was the most confusing trade for sure. The Orioles being the team that they are, having the depth that they do, why would they want to take on that salary? It doesn't make sense. But it is what it is. I think, like most trade deadlines, it's a wait and see, right? Some of these players are going to really find a new environment and excel. Some of them aren't. Like Jazz, I think, can be the biggest in the end. Oh wow, that was the biggest difference maker. But again, going to Chris's Mariners, Arizarona, if he hits the ball hard, that's what the Mariners have missed the most. So he could have if he provides that spark, that could definitely be the one. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, I'll just talk on Randy. That was an exciting one to wake up to.
I bet.
Middle of the night trade, wake up like, well, we got Randy Arozarena now. Hell yeah. I wanted more, but that's a big one, right?
Mhm.
I with the way Major League Baseball works now, it's tough to pinpoint his average, right? He's hitting what 215, 211, something like
Mhm.
that.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, I don't care. He's a veteran bat. He's going to bat second for the most part, maybe lead off depending on how this all works out. It was an A plus move. They needed to get better. They did. Uh, to your other point, and I think I have to bend the knee to Jazz Chisholm right now
Yep.
because he is just I don't know what the deal is. Um, I'm waiting for Yankees fans to turn on him when he gets a cold streak, but for now, let them ride high because that was a big move for them. They they got better, and that's all what the deadline is about, right? Like when you're looking at a trade and you see it and you shrug your shoulders, you're like, okay, well, did they get better? And a lot of teams did, and just not the way we wanted them to. Like I wanted Vlad Guerrero Jr., but was
Right.
he ever available? We don't know the answer to that. I'm convinced that when Jerry Dipoto leaves the Mariners, he's going to write a tell-all book and a bestseller about his how hamstrung he was, and then I will forgive him for everything that's happened. But until then, like you don't know what's going. The MLB doesn't share what goes on like the NFL does. NFL
Hmm.
will show you this war room, and that's awesome. I love that behind the scenes look. You'll never get that beyond a movie that came out 20 years later of Moneyball. But the Yankees gave up practically nothing of
Yeah.
Yeah.
value for Jazz Chisholm, right? Just some lottery tickets, and that was the theme of the trade deadline until like some pitchers got involved, and all of a sudden, like the prices got insane. And I don't know if it's to say of hey, this was a team's number two prospect, if that team's depth was any good or if these
Hmm.
guys
Yeah.
are actually good.
Hmm.
So, we'll get into that because, like I said, I think this is or like somebody has said, I think this is the most trades ever, quantity wise, in a trade
Oh,
deadline, like just by sheer number
by
of
volume.
trades.
Okay.
I
Like
think it was
number of trades or
60.
number of people?
It was like 67 or 68 trades, and
Wow.
usually it's around like 40 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
Yeah.
just a
Okay.
it
lot.
was
High
wild. It
volume.
was just a
Yeah.
lot, but it was just a lot of shit, right?
Yeah, just nothing. Like every single, like you said, every single time trade deadline day, I got the pass and notification. And you're just like, all right, next,
Yeah.
right?
I'm sorry. Who
Okay.
is Carson Kelly and Mark? And okay, sure. They move teams. Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of prospects who are going to listen to this and be like, "Hey, I matter," but I mean,
Yeah.
we just don't know what kind of impact that's going to have. So, but okay. Well, so not a lot of big impacts. So let's just talk about which team did the best. So, Kerry, we'll let you start. What team do you think achieved the most all around?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna throw you a curveball here, and because all the contenders outside of Minnesota didn't do anything. They got
They got one
one
reliever, I think.
one reliever with like a 5.01 ERA. Like what?
Yeah,
Okay, good
yeah.
job. I feel like Milwaukee didn't do nearly enough either, but most of the contenders improved at least a little bit.
Hmm.
If I had to pick one of the contenders to say that improved the most, probably the Dodgers getting Rosario. If Tommy Edman amounts to anything, that'd be a great pickup as well, given their lack of depth in the lineup and then Flaherty at the last minute. But I think the Rays did the
Hmm.
best by just they sat back like a month into the dead or before the deadline. Everybody's just saying it's a seller's market, it's a seller's market, and they saw like okay the Blue Jays aren't going to trade Vlad Guerrero. The White Sox aren't going to trade Garrett Crochet. The Tigers aren't going to trade Tarek Skubal. They're like, well, we have comparable guys, and we'd love to save some money, so let's
Right.
do this. Like that. I mean, Eflin was owed 18 million next year. Arozarena's contract, it's arbitration. He's probably going to be 12 million
Yep.
ish next
Hmm.
year.
Hmm.
Another one on top of that afterwards. Like I'm surprised they weren't able to move Yandy Diaz. That would have saved them another like 15 million or something. Getting rid of Brandon Lowe would have been nice as far as contract money is concerned. But I feel like they did a great job. Whether any of those prospects pan out, who knows? They are the Tampa Bay Rays. They
They
turn
always
lemons
pan
into
out.
They
lemonade
figure it
all the
out.
time.
I
They
don't know how
always
they do
pan
it.
out.
They
Yeah,
always figure
but
it out.
I thought they did an incredible job of just steering headlong into a buyer's market, or excuse me, a seller's market, even though they were, you know, 2, 3 games above 500, really heading into the deadline. They were just like, it's not going to happen, but we're going to fix what we've got.
And it's interesting. There are definitely teams that Chris and I had this conversation of who, because especially in National League, it's so that wild card race is so
Yeah.
tight. Like who's actually going to commit to trying to make it work this year, and who's going to go, you know what? We're done. Yeah, we'll figure it out next year. So the Rays were on that bubble too on the AL side, and like you said, somehow the A's or the Rays figure it out all the time. They're like, you know what? We're gonna find talent, we're gonna cultivate talent, and then we're gonna continue to do this. So they were busy. They're super busy.
And nobody really did dive into selling on the National League. So, I mean, the Marlins did, but
Marlins did, yeah.
we expected that. But that was really it. Like the Cubs kind of bought. They get traded for Paredes. I thought that was bizarre. I think they're a candidate for kind of like what the Angels did last year, where they threw all of their
Oh
free
dear.
agent guys on waivers in late August. I've already seen like Buster Olney was saying that Hector Neris is like all but guaranteed to be one of those guys by the end of the month. So, but yeah, like the Reds, I mean, trading away Montas was whatever. They didn't really go all in. I thought they'd trade away more of their bullpen. The Giants didn't pick a lane whatsoever. It looked like they
No.
were going to when they traded away Soler. Then the last second, they're like, "Oh, let's go get Mark Canha for no fucking reason." So yeah,
Mark
it
Hanna is
was
a
weird that the
perfect
NL didn't do
encapsulation.
anything.
You know, the other team I was going to mention was going to be the Diamondbacks. I mean, they got rid of Bell,
Yeah,
but
They got
they
Bell. They got Bell.
oh, they got Bell, right? So it's
That
that
was out of necessity, though. So I
yeah.
don't think so.
I don't
That
know
Christian
though.
Walker thing expedited very quick.
That's
So
fair.
I,
That's
I
fair. Yeah.
remember texting Andrew and executive producer Doug on the side the minute Christian Walker came out because I just got because
Yep.
it's trade deadline, right? Anytime somebody comes out of the lineup, it's here we go. And then 20 minutes later, it's like he's hurt. It's like uh-oh. And then maybe an hour later, Josh Bell is getting traded, and
Yeah.
like Josh Bell has been dog water for quite a couple of years now, and like 3 years ago I wanted him too on my team. I get it. So that was just a necessary move that they had to make. And then they added two relievers. They added AJ Puck and Dylan Floro, and they kind of gave up some decent prospects to do that.
Yeah.
That bear with me on pronunciation. Davison De Los Santos, like he'll probably be playing for the Marlins at some point. Say what you want about their farm system. And then for Floro, um, this Chaparro fella is apparently playing pretty well. Whether or not he's good, I have no idea. But
I should know who he is as a Nationals fan. I just know he kind of looks like Anthony Rendon before he started to hate baseball.
you want that version for sure.
Yeah.
You do want
But
that version.
but that's about it. And the comparisons there. I was looking at it. Where is he? His slash line was insane.
Yeah.
He was slashing 332, 403, 564 in AAA.
Hmm,
That's pretty good. I'll take it.
That's not bad.
I mean, he was in the PCL, so do with that what you will. And I have no idea. Like, he could be 29 for all I know. It didn't say how old he was. Trying to find it. Whatever. That's what the D-backs did. It's I'm torn on whether or not this extra wild card like is worth it because this
Yeah.
trade deadline was dead because like you said the Reds, what are they doing? They're 5.5 games out, but they're 4 games under 500. In every other sense of the word, they're dead, right? They should have no
It should
business
be.
hanging
Yeah.
around. Cubs, same thing. They're 6.5 back. That Paredes move, I guess you could say it was a future move, but they got a slightly better Morel, I guess.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like
It was a small upgrade. Small
and we all
upgrade.
know Morel's going to turn into everything that he's supposed to be in Tampa, right? Like, and that's just how. That's all the trade deadline was. Like, okay, the Marlins were dead, but like, how many other teams were dead? The Rangers, I don't know what the hell they were doing either.
Yeah,
They didn't really do much.
The Rockies are dead. They didn't do anything hardly.
Nope.
Another franchise is just totally inept.
I just
Don't get me started. Like,
I'm wearing a rock because we went to Denver not too long ago, so I'm wearing a Rockies shirt. They didn't. I mean, they traded away Beeks, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's it.
Beeks and I have it here. There was one other reliever.
Yeah, so they traded two relievers.
Nick Mears, whoever that is.
Sure. Okay. Right. Yeah. And it's just like what? I mean, they're what, like 16 plus
they're
games
dead.
out?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
they're-
they're.
I don't know what
What are
they're
you
doing.
doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, you have
Like
to
Ryan
keep trying to
McMahon should be
restock.
traded.
I
Like
don't.
they have guys that they can move.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
You're
Tovar's-
clearly stuck with Chris Bryant. Tovar's like 22. He's going
Yeah,
nowhere.
no, Tovar is obviously their future and their superstar. He's not going anywhere. But like you said, big man, I guess Bryant, they have to hold on. I just don't understand how teams like that are suffering that much don't do anything. It's just very strange.
I hope Tovar doesn't turn into the other two shortstops from Colorado
Yeah,
that
right.
have to
Yeah.
inevitably don't get paid and then have to leave.
Yeah. Who knows?
But
Who knows?
we'll
All
see
right,
what happens.
Chris, who's your winner for the trade deadline?
I'm gonna go the backwards way here, like kind of take a page out of Kerry's book. I'm just gonna say the Marlins because they got rid of guys that they weren't doing anything with. They're not ready to contend. Whatever that playoff run was last year was just an anomaly, clearly. And, you know, they still have decent pitching. Like Alcantara is going to get traded at next year's deadline. Like that's a no-brainer. Like minus them competing somehow. But they got rid of Jazz. They they were getting rid of Josh Bell no matter what, and then they got the D-backs to take him. They all but robbed the San Diego Padres for Tanner Scott, who's a rental. Like I think overall they did pretty well. In the only issue is they just have lottery tickets, and how much do you trust them to develop? But at the same time, they've developed pitching pretty well in my personal opinion in terms of Yuri Perez. I mean, Cabrera is still I'm verdicts out on him still, but it just that when those guys turn good, they trade them is what happens. Yeah. So they don't keep their core together, but they've got a ton of guys to try to make. Like I wrote some notes here. I'll even show like quick. That's all Marlins trades.
Yeah.
And let's not forget this was maybe the biggest head scratching move, and we should all talk about this. Biggest head scratcher of the entire deadline to me was Trevor Rogers got traded to the Orioles, and the Orioles gave them Norby and Kyle Stowers, and I guess I just didn't grasp the price of what was going on. And yes, Trevor Richards was an all-star maybe. It was incredible like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. Got hurt and just hasn't been the same person. And I don't know how he warranted that price, but I think they robbed both the Orioles and Padres, and then those other guys that whatever, they're all crazy lottery tickets. But some of those guys are legitimate prospects they can do something with. And to revert, I'm probably jumping the gun. I think the Orioles screwed that all up. Like I've been on record. I've said it 1,000 times that at the trade deadline, they create the market. They can have anybody that they want. And they got Zach Eflin. Who else? They got somebody else. Who else?
Trevor Rogers.
Oh, yeah,
Sir Anthony Dominguez, Christian Pache, and then that Eloy trade. But yeah, their deadline approach was weird. They're like, we're going to hang on to Jackson Holiday. We're going to hang on
makes
to
sense.
Kobe Mayo, and I can't even think of who the other one was. But they have like 3 top 20 guys, and they were like, all right, but anything else is fair game. And I feel like they didn't get.
Though.
I feel like they didn't get good value on those deals.
Agreed. So again, I jumped the gun there, but I thought, oh yeah, the Marlins traded De La Cruz as well. Who the hell knows who they got from the Pirates? Their 17th and 18th prospect. So again, the 2 big trades I think they won. A lot of just random prospects. I'm happy with what they did overall because that's what you want teams like that to do. Right, that's who you should be going to. I always find it weird that like you're like this team stinks, but I want like 3 of their players. That concept like just doesn't ring all the time with me. You're like, well, I would take this guy, and like I would have taken De Los Santos on the Mariners. or excuse me, De La Cruz.
De La Cruz, yeah.
But where are you at, Andrew? Who's your team? And
so
don't you dare say the Braves because they brought back Soler.
The Soler bomb is still something that lives in infamy. I don't think it's landed yet in Houston, but I think we're all going to pick sellers. So for me, I'm going to pivot and I'm going to say the Detroit Tigers because I think that they were smart because they're like, we're out of it. We're not going to try to pursue. They made a bet on Flaherty, right? Because Flaherty has been up and down. They're saying, hey, we're gonna see what we can get out of him. He's pitched great, and they got back 2 top 30 prospects for it. They also moved a couple other guys names that I don't recognize. Like I said, Carson Kelly, Andrew Cheff, and all those
Mark
guys.
Hanna.
Yeah, exactly. All those guys for prospects. So they were like, you know what? We're going to step back and we're going to keep our stud. And from everything I've read, Scuball was not close to ever getting moved because they're like, this is the man. He's our future, and that's great. I think a lot of us were kind of envisioning what if they did trade him? How, what does that look like? But it was never going to happen, and I think that was the right move. But they're able to take this other guy and really get a good price for him. And I think that the Tigers set themselves up to be better long term. So that I think that's where I'm headed. I think honorable mention is going to have to be the Royals. But by the way, just so you know, fuck the Royals. That's Chris and I.
That yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
so we couldn't be more anti-Royals if you ask.
um,
So background to that is preseason we did basically a preview of every team, and we
Uh-huh.
got fans of every team to send like a 2 minute clip of just like, hey, what do you think expectations? Give me a quick story. And I just couldn't find anybody from the Royals. Like nobody would answer me. And so it was like the first one that we didn't have someone for. And when we were recording, it was just like, fuck them. They're dead to me. Like hammer the under, and
yep.
they are just taking it to me
They're
right now.
they're they're killing us. They're killing us. But
They did get a lot better. I had them written down too.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
Slight upgrades, but again, that's the did this team get better? And they
That was the
did.
name of the game at this trade deadline,
Yeah.
anyways. But I mean, adding in those assets in the bullpen, adding in DeYoung as depth, like that team got better, no doubt.
It
And
did.
Chris, even you said you would have loved to have DeYoung on your team, right? So
Just a backup
yeah,
guy who could
solid guy.
start every
Yeah.
every other day or something like that. Especially with
Uh,
J.P. Crawford down, he would have fit Seattle. But that Ursig guy, I obviously Dallas Braden's a bit of a homer, but he's super high on Ursig. Loves him, loves his energy, loves his attitude. So I
now,
think
I think the one thing that I didn't pick the Royals for, one, because fuck the Royals, but two, they gave up a good bit for Ursig. When it comes to prospects, based on everything I've seen, they gave like two of their top 15 guys. That's steep. That's pretty steep. So, but if Ursig turns out to be what people saying he is, that could be really huge for them. So, but yeah, I think honorable mention goes to the Royals for sure. All right, so let's go losers. Kerry, I think I know where you're going with this, but let's go ahead and hear who
can't
your
pick the
loser is.
Rockies.
Yeah,
I
can't
can't
pick
pick
the
the
Rockies.
Rockies. I mean, that was one of my 7 teams who blew it, but
Yeah.
Okay.
it's gotta be the White Sox. I don't know if
Yep.
I'm stealing anyone's thunder here, but
No,
what
you
the
already introduced it for yourself, so you're
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
what
yeah.
were they even trying to accomplish? It made no sense. Like they traded away Dylan Cease, right? And it was like March 14th, right? That was the end of their season. All they should have been doing for the last 4 months is preparing for this trade deadline, and they didn't. I don't know if you're familiar with the Brian Regan stand-up routine where he's like, there's that kid who would wake up on the morning of the science fair. It's like, oh no, that's today. It's like put some dirt in a cup. It's like it's dirt in a cup. Just move on. That's basically what Chris Getz did for the White Sox. I mean,
I,
It,
when the
inexcusable.
Eric Fetty trade details were coming out, right? So it was Fetty and Tommy Pham to the Cardinals and Michael Kopech to the Dodgers, and they were supposed to get 4 prospects back. Noah Miller was one of them, and then like as it was coming out, when we thought Noah Miller was in the deal, we were like, seriously, that's all they got? And then everybody's like, wait, just kidding, they don't have Noah Miller. It's like it's even worse than we thought. Jesus. So
yeah,
yeah, I don't know what the heck they were doing.
it seems very weird. Like they had to. I mean, I will say, devil's advocate, they got somebody to take Eloy's contract. That's
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the. I mean, yes, everything else doesn't make a lot of sense, but the fact that they were able to do that, I think, was a huge win for them. But I do understand everything. They should have got more for Kopech. They should have moved, Crochet. Roberts, there's no way. Like Robert was going to be too steep. I don't. I didn't see
Yeah.
anybody ponying up for that. But it's not like the White Sox are doing anything. It goes back to the Rockies too. Like, what are these teams doing? Like they're awful. Like they're really, really, really bad, and I don't see any significant steps to improve that. It's very
I,
strange.
I agree completely. They just didn't. In hindsight, obviously hindsight being 2020, you see what everybody else got for their pitchers or in their like even Fetty. Fetty alone
1,000%.
should have commanded almost that type of return based on the way the entire rest of
Yep.
the market went, and they got nothing. Like one thing, and I could be wrong, and there's one of them, but the Cardinals in that deal, like I don't even know what they gave up, or they gave up Edmund. Sorry,
Yeah.
they gave up Tommy Edmund and just got like you're just like okay, like Tommy Edmund, I don't even think has played a game this year, and you're like oh okay, like
Hmm.
how did they sneak in? Like when I saw 3 team deal, you get excited. You're like what is
Yeah.
going on? Like that never happens. But like again, they just didn't do anything. It's like they didn't try. Robert should have been marketed for months. We like they had teams. It they could have gotten three top 10 prospects from the Mariners. They probably could have gotten three top 10 prospects from the Orioles.
Hmm.
I don't know what they're asking. That's what I mean. I need some sort of follow up. I need somebody to put this guy on blast. Who gives a shit if you're dealing with Chris Getz ever again? He'll be taking another job eventually somewhere. Excuse me. He'll be fired from his job and not allowed to have another job anyway. So burn that bridge. Who cares? Just tell me how that conversation went. I need some inside information as a fan, because if I were a White Sox fan, I need to know what happened. Because if no teams were offering anything, that's a different story,
Yeah.
right? If I'm only getting, one random prospect and a couple things, you're like, all right, I'm just going to hold on to them, and that's a win. But that definitely didn't happen because he'd be shouting that from the rooftops, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if Chris Getz was just reading some of the bullshit that people like me put out there. Were like, oh, Garrett Crochet, he's going to be worth, three of the top 50 prospects in the world just based on whatever random calculations we have. But I feel like he was just over his head. And I was joking with my editor like during the deadline that he should have at least just gotten fleeced by either the Rays or the
Hmm.
Braves. Like that is your inauguration as a GM. Just obviously the Braves wanted Lewis Robert and Garrett Crochet.
Absolutely.
Make it
I,
happen.
Make somebody else better at least,
yeah.
Yeah.
if you're going to do that. Uh, it just total ineptitude all across the board, right? From the owner, and you could almost start to see it now. Like Luis Roberts' stats over the last month have been atrocious, and people are like, "I don't want him." And
They don't
like,
want. They don't want
honestly,
to
I don't
play
want to
there.
be there.
Yeah, they don't want to play there at all.
I
And
need
that's
Tommy Pham to come out and tell me what it's like, because that guy does not care about anything. I need him to tell us what it's like to play out there. Or uh, mm, we'll get something from Tim Anderson in like 2 or 3 years when he stops trying to come back. But he
Yeah.
can't. He can't burn that bridge right now.
no,
Well,
definitely not.
Lance Lynn and Keenan Middleton were saying some stuff last year when they got dealt. They're like, I'm glad to be out of there. That place is a
Yeah,
hellhole.
it's just a
Mm.
life suck. I know Crochet got some flack for coming out and saying what he's saying, but I wouldn't want to say pitch for a garbage ass team either
Yeah,
in October,
yeah.
right? And to be fair, even if I got traded to a contender, you still got to worry about you.
Do we
Yeah.
think that Crochet didn't get moved because of him speaking out? Do you think there was someone being vindictive there?
Chris Getz sure thinks that
Yeah.
Yeah,
what he was saying, and I mean I'm with Chris. I think what he didn't. There was no sound clip. He didn't explicitly say anything. I think it was a
Mm.
John Heyman report about it. Whatever. Somebody asked him. He was like, I'm not going to deny it, but
Yeah.
um, yeah. I mean, I think maybe what Josh Hader did the last few years with the Padres and the Brewers, where he was just like, listen, I'm never pitching more than one inning until you give me a better deal, and he was able to
yeah,
somehow work that into his arbitration dealing. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that moving forward, just because Crochet is trying to avoid becoming Matt Harvey. That's basically what we're
Yeah.
talking about here, and I
No.
don't fault him at all for it. And if the White Sox ended up with their foot in their mouth as a result, that's on them.
yeah.
Mm.
It's an unfortunate thing because that he's playing for millions of dollars, and meanwhile, a bunch of people are going to stump for the White Sox and Jerry Reinsdorf and how he's not pay, not trying to pay him. It's a whole thing. We won't go down that road, but I pay the guy, and they're not going to. So just trade him and get what you're going to get and move on.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, they just pull a cease in the off season and just
There's no way they don't trade one or both of those guys in the offseason. I mean, and if
yeah,
they
that's
don't, then I just don't understand what's happening over there. All right, enough White Sox. They suck. They're taking up too much of our time. Chris, who is your loser?
I'm going with our girl Swilly and the
Oh
Los
no!
Angeles Angels.
Oh no!
And she's on board too.
I know. I
Um,
know.
Besides, yes, they moved Estevez. They got some guys for him. Great, good deal, right? That works fine. But they have expiring contracts.
Hmm.
Like, get rid of these people. Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly who those. I don't think it's Rangifo. I don't think it's Taylor Ward. I can understand to a point of like, hey, these guys are under contract, we're going to hang on to them, I guess that makes sense. But they are in no way, shape, or form competing. They have a ton of guys, like Tyler Anderson, guys like 34 years old. The way that market panned out, they could have gotten another good haul for him.
Hmm.
Just do it. Like what? And they might even pull that same shit they did last year and just start dropping people again. Like it wouldn't put it past them. Like Artie Moreno isn't a good owner. He slides under the radar because we have so many other bad ones.
Right.
Honestly, um, I I just disliked their deadline overall. They have no sense of direction. Oh, and Anthony Rendon's back on the IL.
Oh God, that guy
Is
hates baseball so
is
much.
that IL, or is he just
Oh,
packing
buddy,
it
I don't
in?
know. He, the ultimate just I don't know. I don't. I can't talk bad about people, but I'm going to. Like he's just that can't happen. Like that.
Yeah, so wild.
And what stunk is like for so long the Angels just paid people, and I'm all for it, and they just got every single one of them wrong.
Yeah.
Like that, I couldn't tell you the last time they won one
Yeah, I mean, didn't the Angels get a decent amount of prospects though? I mean,
from who for who? They got
uh,
two.
I thought
Yeah.
they got
What they got back for Estevez was solid.
Was
I thought the
solid.
Phillies gave up a lot, and
yeah,
even what
Agreed.
they got for they got four
yeah,
not
they get
noteworthy prospects, but they got four prospects for Luis Garcia
for
too. So
I
Garcia,
forgot about
correct?
that
I
Yeah,
guy.
feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
what they got for what they gave away was impressive, but I totally agree with Chris. Like, why did they not give up more? They were one of the seven teams I had on my list of who blew it at the deadline, and that got
Hmm.
like tweeted out by the BR walk off thing, and usually I mute those conversations immediately because they get really toxic. But all of the Angels fans were like, "Yes, we fucked up. We did it again. That's us."
Oh, they're yeah. The fans aren't mad at you.
No,
They're the ones yelling
They
about
know.
it,
Yeah,
right?
they know.
They're on your side. So
yeah,
it just doesn't sit right, and I can only imagine what they're feeling like. 'Cause they're like, we're not here, and then Trout. It just came out today, but it's like
yep.
you keep trying to hitch your
Yeah,
wagon to him, and it's just not working.
he's getting hurt just trying to carry that entire team. So, okay, so
Who you
my
got?
my loser, and I'm gonna start with this, and I'm too close to it, and so it may not count. But I genuinely think the Atlanta Braves were probably one of the bigger losers. The reason for that is they had two very big needs, and they didn't address them. Now, there's an argument that Soler fills one of those needs, which was we needed an outfielder with some pop. However, he hasn't played in the field all season. You know who else hasn't played in the field all season? Ozuna. So we have two guys that can't play outfield that are supposed to help our outfield get better. No way. And it's just, I know that um, we're a desert of prospects. We weren't getting anyone good. We had to give up something. And Double A was not willing to do it, and that I think that's more than apparent because we couldn't get Fetty, who I felt like was a big target of ours. We couldn't get any of the like Lane Thomas stuff like that. Like there were guys out there that we could have pursued. I feel like, and we just didn't. It just didn't happen. Again, I'm probably too close to that situation. So I would have to say I think my biggest loser is the Twins, and we kind of already touched on that. What a snooze! I mean, one of my close work friends is a big Twins fan, and I talked to him, and he's just like, "That's just that I didn't expect anything else." It's so
Yeah.
again, it's that fan base is just so used to nothing, and I mean, the Guardians didn't do much, but they didn't do anything to lessen that gap at all, and it's a head scratcher because that team is talented and they have the pieces to really make a deep run if they want to. They've proven it already. So why are you not trying to get better? Just I don't know. The Twins to me, I think because they are the ones that have the most to lose. If they don't get better, they're going to get caught. And they may not even make the playoffs at this point, which is wild considering where they are and how they started the season. So I think that's my biggest loser.
I
Because
think
what? Yeah.
The Twins did nothing in the offseason, right?
Yeah.
Because of the regional
Money.
sports network garbage, and
Yeah.
but they got away with it. They ended up they're better than they were last year. They're like, oh,
Yep.
we can just keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think it's going to bite them. I have a post trade deadline postseason predictions. Say that 5 times fast. Article coming out. And I don't
Oh,
have the Twins getting in. I think they're going to miss the cut.
I've
Uh,
had my eyes set on the Royals as the so Mariners are hand in hand with the Astros, right? I don't
mhm.
expect them to win the division, so I'm constantly looking at this wild card picture,
Yep.
Yeah.
and for me personally, I want the Royals to fail miserably.
Yep. Fuck the
However,
Royals.
the real path is the Twins,
I
and
agree.
and
Yeah.
yes, they have to pass out the Red Sox in the meantime, but for whatever reason, I don't want to worry. I'm not worried about them, even though they just beat us in the series. However, like you just said, the Twins are about to fall. Like they have to. They can't hold. I even saw some reports right towards the end of the deadline that the Twins might even start selling. Like Kepler might be available, Duran might be available.
That
I
would have
have
been
no
wild.
idea if that was true or not,
Yeah.
but man, what a like it was like. All right, let's go give them a call, see what's going on. Uh, but Andrew, to your point about the Guardians, like the Central just feels like a weird like both centrals feel the same in like you're like oh well that's a Guardians type move or
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah,
Cardinals type move like
yeah.
what other move do the Cardinals make besides getting just compiling number three starters.
Yeah.
The
who
Twins did,
who are at least 33 years
oh,
old
oh yeah,
also.
Exactly. Yeah. Old
old
dudes.
number three
Old
starters.
dudes.
Now,
Yeah.
I will say I used to say that about Sonny Gray. I used to say that about the Twins in Sonny Gray. However, Sonny Gray is very good still.
Yep.
So he's worked his way into like low level ace status is what I'll give him. But that's just what the Cardinals do. Like that whole central, like even the Guardians, like Lane Thomas. I like that move overall, but that's a ho hum Guardians move.
Yeah.
You're like okay.
Yep.
Like again, they got better, and then they got Alex Cobb, and I didn't know that he was on a team.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, it's like oh, like, and then he hasn't pitched this year,
Yeah.
so what
Yeah.
they're gonna get from him, I have no idea. But I know they're banged up, and Tristan McKenzie has been not very good, so they need something.
Yeah,
But
he's
somebody's gonna win
probably
that
going to
division.
be their number 4 starter if they make the postseason. Like they had to do something, and I think he's made like 6 like
Rehabs.
rehab starts in the last
Yeah.
month. Like he might be pitching for them tomorrow. I'm not even
Mm.
sure, but he's coming
Oh,
back soon, and he's going to be a big piece of the rotation.
So
yeah,
here's
he's
the
a Major
here's
League Baseball player.
the Guardians. What
Yes.
the two moves the Guardians made are the moves I wanted the Braves to make. Like they got
Yeah.
that outfielder help
Yep.
and they got the starting rotation help. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not big moves. They're not great names, but they add to the team and make them significant. They make them just a little bit better. Which the Guardians already are a good baseball team, so they don't need a lot.
Yeah.
Similar to like the Phillies, the Phillies are a great baseball team right now. They don't need to do much. They just had to do enough to secure their longevity. So I think the Guardians did a good job. Just again, not giant moves, but it is what it is.
All right, I gotta ask: do you have the Mariners in the? Are you still writing this, or are the Mariners in?
In the playoffs, yeah. I have both the Twins and the Royals missing, so only the
Ooh,
Guardians
That's what
coming out of the
down with the
Central.
Royals,
Fuck the
baby.
Royals. Let's go.
They
Let's go.
they have I think the second toughest remaining schedule, like
Hmm.
according to Tankathon or whatever. But they play. It's
Good.
something from like August 23rd through September 11th. They play 20 consecutive games against like the Guardians, the Astros, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and
Ooh.
and
Okay,
somebody like they're just gonna get their shit pushed
I hope
in
so.
for 3
Because
weeks
right now
straight.
they just swept the White Sox, who, if you haven't noticed, have lost 17 straight games.
Jesus Christ.
They were beating the Royals twice. Again, I'm scoreboard watching.
Bless you.
Sorry about that. I'm scoreboard watching, so it's like, oh, they're winning, and then I look back and they're down like 6. I'm like, what the hell does that? Like, who came into this game?
The White Sox
Uh,
happened. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
all right, I just needed to know where your sentiment is at because mine is low. I have zero fun while watching Mariners baseball games. I don't even. It doesn't matter. It's like, oh, we scored 3 runs. Like, okay, somebody needs to shut it down, and we don't. And then I'm back to square one. So I'm glad that you have faith in them because somebody has to.
All
I
right.
liked the Justin Turner pickup. I think that could be
That was a free pickup.
that's either going to be a great move or whatever.
He's our
we
first
tried,
baseman.
right? Yeah, you
Well,
got to.
he's better than Ty France.
Mm.
current
at the
Cincinnati Red, Ty
yeah.
France.
I hope he turns it on. I have no problems with him. But yeah, the Turner thing was like overall to I didn't want to toot my own horn. I do think the Mariners had like a solid B trade deadline.
Yeah, I think
It
they
could have
did well.
been an A. They have they're not the Orioles, but they have prospects to make something happen. So I'm saddened to have gone through that without it. I'm glad Yandy Diaz didn't end up anywhere else,
Yeah.
because if he ended up like with the Astros as
Yeah.
potentially reported, I may need new TVs. But so I think they did well. That Yimi Garcia is a huge move, like huge, huge, huge. And Santos just pulled something in his arm yesterday. I haven't read anything about it today, but if he's down, like he's automatically our setup man.
Yeah.
So they made moves. Again, they got better, and it wasn't a trade deadline thing. But Victor Robles is turning into
Yeah, what the hell?
superstar, um, and I'm gonna ride that wave as long as
As you
humanly
should. As
possible.
you should. Yeah.
Fully expecting him to regress to the mean, but for now he's hitting leadoff, baby. Let's ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, so sorry, I had to sneak my Mariners recap in somewhere,
Nah, I appreciate it.
because Andrew got to talk about his Braves. But you were saying something before I proudly
Oh,
cut you
I
off.
I was just moving on to the snooze fest. So I mean,
Okay.
what teams do we feel like? And we've kind of touched on some, but what teams just didn't do anything, or they swapped a player for a player that's the same thing, or just didn't do anything to move the needle at all.
For me, I would say the Giants.
Okay.
I feel like like when they traded away Solar like that, it made sense for getting below the luxury tax threshold, whatever. Like they were
Hmm.
right up against that. And then they traded away Alex Cobb. That also got them below there. What was the other one they got rid of? Austin Slater, whatever. Austin Slater got traded twice in like 48 hours. Went to the Reds and then to the Orioles. Um, but then then the Mark Canna move just made no sense. Like they shedded salary and then took on like 4.5 million more with
Hmm.
Canna. This is what the Giants do. This is the third straight year that we're like, are they going to pick a lane or not? Like they seem
They
to
don't.
always be right at 500 at the deadline and they don't do anything. And that was also the Red Sox MO for the last two
Hmm.
years. They at least tried to do something this year. I think the Red Sox did pretty well at the deadline. And, if the Mariners are a B, I think the Red Sox probably had a B plus trade deadline. And in that battle, I think maybe they did better. But yeah, the Giants just
Yeah.
perpetually refuse to do what they're supposed to do. And for a franchise that over the last two off seasons, right? Thought they were going to get Aaron Judge, thought they were going to get Carlos Correa, thought they were going to get Shohei Ohtani, thought they were going to get Yoshinobu
That's too
Yamamoto,
many
and
thoughts.
yeah, they
Yeah.
just
Unbelievable.
never get anything. They
Mhm.
get Blake Snell and he sucks for 3 months, and then they
Mhm.
don't trade him away when he does get good.
Yeah,
Seems weird. Yeah.
that's a good pick.
I mean, going to the Red Sox too, they picked up what, four bullpen arms, like Garcia,
Yeah.
Sims, Priester. I feel like I'm missing one, but
They
maybe it was just those
is
three.
James Paxton, not a bullpen arm.
Oh, okay, and Paxton too,
The big
and
maple, baby.
yeah, and then they
Maple.
got Danny Jansen
Danny
for
Jansen. Yep.
yeah, which is
They
a
got the
big move. Yeah,
Jansons together.
yeah. So
They
I mean, I
they
think the
did all
Red
right.
Sox did pretty good. I mean, bullpen moves don't move the needle, but it's something they desperately needed. So I'm with you
Yeah.
there. But yeah, Giants snooze fest over there. What about you, Chris? Who's your snoozer?
Snooze fest? Just out of spite, I think, is the Houston Astros.
Mm.
Yeah.
They got Kikuchi, but they gave up a preposterous amount for him. I
Hmm.
know Jesse and Riley were pretty damn excited to get for Buds and Blue Jays, that they were excited about the return that they had gotten
Hmm.
for him. It, and then that was it, really. And then they were rumored on Yandy up until the end, but same concept of the Braves, and they didn't have anybody. Like they don't
Yeah.
have anybody else to move. Uh, I, I hope it comes back to bite them. It won't. Um, And Andrew, I hope I don't steal your team, but the other one, and I could be wrong here, is the Mets. Like I feel like they didn't do anything. Am I wrong? Did they get somebody? Did I miss something?
They got Jesse Wing. They got Paul Blackburn,
Oh,
but
Blackburn,
they
even
yeah.
did.
that's kind
Okay.
of that. And that was, with like the
And
Diamondbacks when they made their desperation move to go get Josh Bell. That's what it felt like when they lost Senga for the rest of the year. Like,
yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
got to get something. Let's go get Paul
I like
Blackburn.
I like Blackburn. And they got Jesse Winker too, who God love him. He's having a good year, but he stuck it to me in Seattle. But that was my other one. I thought I forgot that they got both of those guys. So better deadline than B minus for them. I'll give them that.
B
That was better
minus.
than I thought. Who you got?
I was gonna say the Mets too feel like a snooze fest because we were just expecting something big from them with Pete Alonso, and so it's tough to, um, it's tough to kind of be excited about it. So my snooze is, I mean, and they were busy-ish, but to me it's the A's.
Mm.
And I mean, one, I hate everything about that ownership group. Uh, and it's awful what they're doing to that team. But I mean, yes, they were able to get some prospects back, and okay, good. But they didn't do anything that really made it turn heads or made me care, right? And I didn't expect to care either. So I think it's just the A's did exactly what I expected the A's to do, which was nothing of note. And so, I mean, they're getting prospects back, but to what end are they getting these prospects? Like, they have a roster that's getting paid in like pennies. Good for you, so you can go play in Sacramento. It's just in general, it's not great, but I don't think. I mean, it's good that they got, I guess, that Urseg trade or whatever. That I mean, I'm sure they got him. I don't know what team control was for him, but I think that was beneficial to them. So that was a plus move for them.
Well,
But
he was a rookie, so that he has 5 years of team control left. Like when they moved Ursig, I assumed that was the signal that
yeah,
they're going to move Brent Rooker too, and
right,
they did
exactly.
not.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
could have gotten so much for Brent Rooker on this
I
year's deadline.
I
I
think
think they screwed up.
so many teams
Yeah.
were ready to get Rooker for sure, and they've proven that they don't like players talking bad about the team. So why would they not want to get rid of those guys? So, but yeah, I think the A's is the team that I just fell asleep on and don't really care. And the Rockies were going to be my other one too, but we already talked about the Rockies. So I mean,
They're not worth our breath.
yeah,
They're another
exactly.
team that nobody submitted anything for, by the way. Uh, but yeah, Ursig, for being a rookie, he's 29, so he's
Yeah.
relatively old for
Yeah.
his. But again, to your point, if they care about money and stuff, like control was everything that they had. Not moving Rooker, it doesn't make sense. They could have moved Andujar, who is having
Yeah.
a kind of a bounce back with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, to your point, like, what are you doing? And the only excuse that they're going to run with is this Sacramento, which is also already a shit show. Who would have guessed it? Um, Here's hoping that everything that guy touches just goes to shit and all the
Agreed.
players come out fine.
Agreed.
But that's all I've got. I almost wore my Cell shirt today.
Oh, you should have. I love that shirt's awesome.
It's just it's a little simple shirt.
All right. So before we end, I did want to kind of ask something of you, Kerry. There was a lot of talk about all these big names like the Bellingers, the Alonsos, the Crochets. These guys that were like, "Oh, holy crap, they're going to make a big splash." Why do you think none of that happened this year? Like, what's your thumb on the pulse for that? Why did nothing big happen on this deadline?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I'm questioning that myself. Like I never understood why Scooble was rumored to be traded.
Yeah.
I think when the Blake Snell rumors popped up, those never made sense because guys with same with Bellinger, like guys with player options, it's just so hard to move them because if you trade for them and they get hurt, like you're stuck with then $40 million worth of
Yeah.
injury guy, or just whatever. But yeah, it was mostly the White Sox fault,
Mhm.
right? They never broke the dam. I mean, we were waiting on Crochet and Robert, and it never happened. And I think that just made the early moves by the Marlins to move Chisholm, the Rays to move Arozarena, and it was kind of similar to the free agency window back in
Mm,
December, where we were just
mm,
like waiting and waiting and waiting. And then finally Otani signed, and then we were still just waiting and waiting and waiting.
uh,
I don't know if it's still the RSN thing playing in, like some teams aren't sure where their money's coming from next year or what.
yeah.
There's always money in the banana stand. I don't know why they always cry
There's a lot
foul
of
that they
money. They're
can't do it, but
billionaires.
yeah,
They got it.
it's ridiculous. But yeah, it should have been more.
Yeah.
I think we were. I remember like early May, I wrote something about like early bold predictions for the trade deadline or whatever, and I said that the first base market was going to be oversaturated because we thought Paul Goldschmidt, the Cardinals sucked early on. We thought Pete
Right.
Alonso because the Mets sucked
Yep.
early on.
Yep.
We thought
Yep.
Christian Walker, like everything just kind of changed in June into July, and I don't know if they ever audibled enough outside of the Rays just going all in on a market where they realized that nobody was going to be trading things away.
Hmm. It is interesting that you brought up the offseason because, I can remember the whole time Chris and I were like, okay, when's that first domino going to fall and just lead to everything else? And the first one fell, and we just kind of, okay, that's it. And then waited a
Yeah.
couple more days, and a week would go by, and another domino. But there was never that, like, okay, everybody, let's do it. Oh, crap. I liken it to a fantasy draft, right? Where like
Yeah.
no one drafts a tight end, and then all of a sudden that first one goes, and then everybody drafts a tight end.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we just like expected that to happen, and it just hasn't. And it's made for not a splashy couple off seasons and or trade windows or whatever you want to call it, but it's interesting. I do wonder. Which ones we're going to talk about that have the impact? Because right now it's hard to even put a finger on it, but it's been interesting to say the least. So
I do have one, but this will be my final question. We kind of talked a little bit about it beforehand before we hit record, but do you think the MLB should move the deadline back at all? And if so, how far? Like what's reasonable?
Yeah, I think the where it's at in the calendar of the season, it's good, right? We're like 2/3 of the way through.
yeah,
I think that's a good spot. But I mean, my big thing is that it should just be an off day for everybody.
agreed.
Because we were also talking about this beforehand. Like by 6 p.m. East Coast time, I didn't watch any baseball on whatever yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever that was. Like I was just done. Like it's too
Mhm.
much, and I don't even know how those teams played. Like as I said, certainly the Marlins traded away 7 players from their 26-man roster. Like
Mhm.
they didn't have anything close to a full team. I don't even remember who they were playing, but I'm sure they lost. But
Yes, the Marlins. Yeah, they definitely lost. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's fun to think about, like moving it back, Chris. Like, what do you think the benefit of that is?
Just that more teams it'll be more clear because it's either that or get rid of that third wild card, which is never, ever, ever going to
yeah,
happen at this point, right? They opened up that Pandora's box. It's never going back. And quite frankly, the Mariners need that third wild card to get in, at least this year, in my opinion. But so it's a self-serving type of question.
That's
But
fair.
I think it's more reasonable that they would move it back because, as of now, there are still so many teams. Like you said, pick the Reds. Okay, they're dead. What did I say? They're 6.5 out. They're really
Hmm.
not like
yeah,
completely out of it, right? The Astros destroyed a 10-game lead of the Mariners in a month. Like in 2 weeks, 6 games could be down to three, and all of a sudden you're having a completely different conversation. And vice versa. The Pirates, who are 2.5 out of the wild card, they're 2 games over 500. They could lose 6 in a row right now and
yeah,
just be like, shit.
Hmm.
Right? And
Hmm.
I just think it opens, since that third wild card is never ever going anywhere. I think the only answer to liven up the deadline might be an extra week, an extra 2 weeks, something along those lines, like mid-August, the 10th through 14th, I think would be a good spot. Little
Now,
extra, an extra day off, like you said, maybe a 2 day off, make it a kind of another thing. I don't know. They're MLB, figure it out. That's not my job.
now, I know that there are other ways for people to get players now that we're past the trade deadline, right? Now, what is that? And I've never really understood how people can make those swaps later in the season after the deadline. Kerry, what's that specifically? Like, is it contract specific? Like, how is that possible?
So it used to be, you know, I don't know. This must have changed when they did the strike three whatever years ago. But it
Hmm.
used to be there was like a secondary like waiver
Right.
trade deadline.
Hmm.
Now it's just straight up waivers. Like I don't believe teams are allowed to trade anymore. But if like
Hmm.
what the Angels did last year when they put Giolito and Hunter Renfro and
That's
all
what I
those
was thinking
guys
about
on
was the
waivers.
Giolito thing. Yeah.
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 So that I think if they got rid of that, maybe that would kind of address what Chris was saying, where
Hmm.
it forces teams to pick a lane at some point,
Hmm.
kind of, because like with the Pirates, right? They still have Aroldis Chapman on a 1 year,
Hmm.
$10.5 million deal or whatever. They can just, if they fall apart, they could just cut him and save themselves $2 million because somebody's going to pick him up if he's on waivers. If that option is no longer there, maybe that changes things for the deadline. I don't know,
Ooh.
but so yeah, that's what it is now. Is I think it's until August 31st.
31st. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You can waive guys, and then it's like kind of like fantasy sports, is
Free
like the
for all.
Hmm.
inverse order of the standings has like the right of first refusal or whatever you call it. So that's why the Guardians were able to pick up everybody last year because they were
Yep.
that last place
And
team
it
still
doesn't
with some
reset.
hope.
They get that
Hmm.
same number for each guy. And to
Hmm.
Yep.
your point, I think it used to be if you cleared like if you cleared waivers, then you could be traded.
Yeah.
So like because there
At
used to be, but it was
because
the
there was
same deadline.
the pre waiver deadline was like July 31st, and then there was another waiver deadline on
Correct.
August
It's like
31st.
clear
Now
waivers,
it's
then you're traded. Now it's just straight waivers. To your
Yeah.
point,
yes, yep,
which is weird. And then what are you gonna do?
Hey,
I
it's
guess
yep.
that.
strange. Do we think that there's a team that could be waiver heavy like I mean, the Angels, what they did last year was so rare, but do we think that it could be the norm? And if so, who's probably a target for that?
I think the Cubs are the number one
Yeah,
targets since they're the furthest back, and they have a couple of guys
checks out.
they can waive. They, I mean, it would be absolutely insane. But if they talk to Cody Bellinger and he says, "Look, I'm not fucking opting in on my player option. Go ahead and cut me now," that
Mm,
would be wild.
that would be.
I
I think Hector
I think he's
Neris is probably the
opting in.
biggest one.
Neris,
It,
Hector Neris coming to a team near you, baby.
beware.
Beware. Beware is fair. That's fair.
Bellinger's opting in no matter what. There's no way
Probably.
he's going to make more money. That's just my one-off opinion.
No.
I don't
I
think based
I
on
think
what's
he is
going on,
too. Yeah.
but
All right.
that's good info. That's extra info, and
Yeah.
we came up with a solution there. We just said
We
Yeah.
get rid of
did.
waivers, no more waivers after the
Put
trade deadline.
put us in charge of Major League Baseball,
We
damn
just
it.
fixed it.
That's what we're here for. Well, Kerry, thank you so much for spending some time with us and giving us your insights. We do the best we can to reach out and get other opinions and get it outside of our echo chamber. So we appreciate it.
No, this was fun. We'll have to put Doug in charge of connecting us again soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Part-time executive producer Doug Irwin. Yes.
We'll get it done. Kerry, thank you very much.
Okay.
That's Kerry Miller, Bleacher Report. Again, appreciate your welcome on anytime. Oh, and he's a big, if you're in college basketball, my head spins, but super big into bracketology.
Oh
If you
yeah.
Oh,
see
really?
Reddick and Christian Leitner. Oh yeah, he's the last four in, last four out bubble team guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's doing that for months. It's
Yep.
incredible.
Yeah.
I
The
remember
whole
seeing it.
season I do bracketology. I don't know why I'm so obsessed with it, but if and when Joe Lunardi decides he's done with it, like I
You're
assume
ready.
ESPN will be calling me.
Okay,
I'm
awesome.
ready.
Hey, let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Then we could be like, hey, why was that guy talking about baseball? Be like, beats me. I don't know.
What else am I gonna do from April through November? It's the perfect thing,
You're
right?
not wrong.
Instead of sleeping like Rothstein, you're just doing baseball.
Yeah, no, I'm at the like opening day weekend. I'm at the Final Four, and then the World Series ends, and then college football or college basketball season starts. It's perfect.
I hear you. I mean, that doesn't sound bad at all. Carrie, how can people follow you? Like, where do you want us to point them?
Oh, I'm on Twitter or X or whatever the hell Elon's calling it these
Yeah.
days.
Yep.
At Karen's James. I don't really tweet much about baseball though, because like you said, I do mostly bracketology. But if
Mhm.
you like college basketball, I do a lot of tweeting about that. But mostly you can read my stuff on Bleacher Report.
Awesome.
Perfect.
That sounds great, Kerry. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds great. Take
Thanks,
care, guys.
Kerry.
Thanks.